Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Esports Universe First Community Talks podcast. We are here, I'm joined by Brody, as per usual, and today our special guest, Mr. Aerox Davey. He is here, giving us our first chat about organisations as the topic of today, especially more specifically Aerox, which would be kind of futile to talk about any other organisations, but here we go. So we wanted to open up really with some news that came from Davey a little while ago, actually. Some news that, in fact, Davey is now going full-time with esports and with Aerox as a whole. So we wanted to open with this one and just understand, really, because this is a kind of a dream for a lot of people in esports as a whole, right? And a lot of people want to go full-time with this kind of thing. How have you made it something that is viable for you to do financially, and how have you made it something that's viable to do for the organisation as well?
Well, a lot of people think the job is Aerox, and it's not. It's got nothing to do with Aerox.
Oh, right, okay.
It will tie into Aerox in the future.
Right.
We're in talks with that at the moment. But it's actually working for a traditional sports company that's pushing esports.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
They're in all the traditional sports at the moment. So I'm working with them to try and push them into the esports.
All right, that's really nice. So, with regards to Aerox, then, we'll take a walk back in time. We'll come at it from a different angle, I suppose, with this one. We'll go from the beginning. Aerox started. Now, obviously, Aerox has become one of the most successful organisations that we've got in this little scene that we've got wrapped up in the moment. I've been doing Void for a very long time, and it's not been nearly as effective of what you guys have done with Aerox. And we've seen orgs blow up and then kind of level out like TD. But they're back on the rise now, so there's stuff going good for those guys. But I just wanted to get your views on what's the composition of a good organisation at the ground when it first starts. What is a good foundation for them to start running from?
Well, I mean, just experience.
Right.
It's nothing worse than, I think there's probably how many orgs do you think open up every day?
Too many.
Too many every week, and that's saturating the esports scene at the moment. And it's like, my advice: don't do it. You know, there's too many orgs at the moment, and like you said, like, the guys that are trying to, 9 out of 10 are failing. So I'd say, just experience. I think we were talking about this earlier, Brody, that if you're going to start an organisation, at least work for another organisation for a little while, get some experience, get some contacts made, and then look into branching out, doing your own thing. Too many people just make a graphic, make a Twitter page, which anyone can do. But it shows, 3 months down the line, you'll never hear from them.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of organisations like that rise and fall in the past.
Yeah. I think it happens a lot in the Call of Duty scene as well. I mean, that's where me and George, that's where we sort of base ourselves. And Aerox, of course, been there in the past. So many organisations come in for like a season and then just dip out immediately after. I think my own org is guilty for that. So
yes,
yeah.
There's been a lot. The thing is, as well, with organisations when you're running it at this sort of level, is I find it's very difficult to maintain staff, obviously, because these things are on a voluntary level at the moment, right? Staff is hired on a voluntary level. It's difficult to maintain them for a long period of time, and as a result, it's difficult to maintain interest and investment and all that kind of stuff as a model increases. So, for Aerox, though, I've always seen a pretty consistent team of staff around that. I mean, obviously, there's been people who've come and go around it, but how have you managed to maintain a consistent staff team who have all got the same work ethic and are all on the same page, doing exactly the right stuff that has propelled you guys to be in the position you're in?
I think firstly, knowing who you're working with. A lot of people, any of my managers, we know birthdays to family members to partners. We know everything, and that's just brings us all together. And also trying to find people with the same work ethic as yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to be like, right, you're not doing anything because you feel like you're doing, so much yourself as an owner.
Yeah.
Where the managers need to be on par as an owner. Just having the right guys on board who know each area of esports. Yeah. You can get a pod manager and then start putting CSGO things on him. He'll have no clue.
Yeah.
So go and find someone else to do that for you. With us, we've got 200 plus members now, I believe, and we've got 14 managers. So each person has an individual role. I haven't got to worry about what so-and-so is doing. Each manager don't have to step on each other's toes. And just communication. every night you'll find us in Skype, Discord, chatting, thinking of new things. Picked up a marketing manager to think of new ideas for us. And just having that hour call every night, 2 hours call every night. Obviously the DMs on Twitter are always bloody annoying, but there's so many people in there. I think just the communication and making sure that everyone's on the same work ethic as each other. No one's dead weight. Everyone's doing their job they're supposed to do. And that's what sort of holds the organisation together.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a big factor. With Void, I'll speak from experience with this one, is that when I've had staff teams in the past that have kind of dropped off in motivation, you know what I mean? Like they, it's not just a thing that like just affects them. It's like a knock-on effect to the rest of the team, right? Your whole team loses motivation at that point. I'm sure that's something Brody's experienced with Brainstorm as well. It's one of the hardships that we all kind of go through with organisations. And while we're on the theme of hardships and the difficulties of starting and running an org, what were the main challenges for you when the organisation Aerox first became an idea? Who did you contact about it, and what were the difficulties with getting it started, and then what are the difficulties with running it from day to day now?
Personally, with Aerox, I think when we took over the organisation, I think it had been changed hands twice.
Right.
The first bloke completely, I think he'd done some good things, then he sort of forgot about it. But I think he was relying on the next owner to sort of make it what it was supposed to be. And then the owner, I'm sure you know who it is, wrecked it, ruined it, stamped on it. But trying to bounce back from that was hard. Yeah, it was hard. When we took over, we knew the history of the org. We knew it dabbled in League of Legends, I6, I58, whatever it was, CS:GO. They had a COD team for a little while. It was a bit of a shambles, but I just liked the brand. The brand was what appealed to me. I think that was the most hardest thing, trying to come back. I think when you buy an organisation, it's hard to try and either keep up to the reputation that it had before, or if it had a bad reputation, trying to convince people that you're a new organisation but with the same brand. We had a bit of problem with both, but obviously we've done all right now. Yeah.
Okay then. From that leading on, so we've got Aerox as it is currently, and there's obviously every organisation comes up under a lot of fire for a lot of things. For example, speaking from experience, Void comes under fire for being dead or not being as active as it should be for its following, right? That's a big one for me, because we're nearly at 2k followers and we barely tweet anything, and like motivation goes through ebbs and flows. And obviously with like my lung collapsing recently, I haven't been able to do as much as I wanted to do, and now I'm bringing everything back. It's like, oh, you just pick it up and choose whenever you want to do it. It's not always that simple. But I've seen recently there was a debate that was being had on Twitter. I can't remember who it was between, but I saw it and I made a comment on it, which was like, oh, it's whatever floats Aerox's boat. And it was about the number of streamers that you guys pick up.
We've seen that.
Me and Brody were talking about this, I think, just before we started a cast, or maybe after we finished one for Val playoffs or something like that, because it was a debate that was going on. And the streaming approach for me, for you guys, I'm not going to criticise, because I think it is a good idea all round it, but it's an unorthodox approach to having content creators. And I just wanted to know what is the thought process behind having so many streamers or so many content creators. Sure, because a lot of people think, which the criticism that I saw on Twitter, the main criticism was, how can you give all these content creators enough attention to help them grow, right? And I just wanted to know how you guys manage that issue and work around it, because obviously working with so many people, there's going to be a lot of logistical issues to come with that.
When we first decided to go down the content route, I think it was after I60, I believe. I felt COD was dying, the last COD, so we needed to branch out into something else. The stream team is what's going to give you the most publicity, right? You can send a team to a LAN event, you can place top 21 or however you sort of are, and you still won't get the publicity that you think you're going to get. So the next best thing is to either pick up a pro team and spend thousands of pounds, or you're going to build a stream team and get your name out there more. With more members you have, the more it's going to go out there. So we had a massive thing with this. I mean, this was ongoing for, as you probably both know, for a long time. Now it's cooled off. I mean, you might get the old youth community pipe up a little, about it, as per usual. I think we've got 150 streamers now, maybe. Okay, so the perks of having the big stream team is your widespread reach that you get.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it exclusive, a lot of people say this to me, like, okay, why didn't you just go down the routes of, let's just say, I can't even think of anyone, Radiant, OBN, etc., who have good stream teams, but they only limit themselves to a certain amount of members. So what's the point of only having 10 members in a stream team with less than 5,000 subscribers or followers? If you're going to have a small stream team, you need to be a massive organisation,
right?
Because you're not going to get nothing from it. Having 10 people in a stream team, what are you going to get? Nothing at all. You'll get good content. You know, Radiant do some really cool stuff. I'm actually quite impressed what they've been doing recently, and that's hard for me to say. But Nate's doing a really good job, and he's only got 10 members or so, whatever he's got. I don't know. But the bigger you get, and it's the bigger reach, you get more sales. And you go and talk to Armour Centrum. You know, we've got a good bank balance because of that, right? Yeah. People now are realising, I think, that they do need to expand their content teams. When we first took our first 50 members on, everyone was going crazy.
I remember seeing an announcement on the Aerox hub every other day, just one rattling off.
Yeah. And like I said, everyone was just crying about it. Now, everyone's tweeting out, we need streamers, we need content creators. You know, and now it's like a reversal thing. Everyone's now trying to build a content team, because even down to sponsors, you go to a sponsor and say, yeah, cool, we come top 32 at a LAN event every time. We've got 10 content members on our stream team. And they want to look at analytics, and let's just say you reach, I don't know, 10,000 a month or whatever. They don't care. You know, when we go to a sponsor or a company and say, this is our sponsor deck, with 150 members, we get the analytics every 6 months, and we work out what we've got overall, and it's a massive figure. Okay. Companies then are interested. Okay, so that's one of the perks on a big stream team, and obviously, like I said, the money coming in. So, and the other question saying, how do we organise this massive amount of members? It's just down to the managers. Our managers do a fantastic job keeping the Discord alive. I mean, our Discord is just bombarded every day with messages, and everyone just feels a tight community with us. Everyone's talking every day, and like I said, we've got so many members, but it just works. I think if you've got the right management behind you, it will work. I think a lot, because people haven't been doing. I think because you can't control a lot of people with 2 or 3 guys. And these organisations work so tight knit in their own management team that they're afraid to bring new people in or expand their management team. So, like I said, we've got 14 managers, you know, but that's what is needed to keep people of that amount of members under control and organised very well. You know, we've got massive spreadsheet, as it says, everyone's names, Twitters. We're so organised, and that's why it's working. And this is only the start. You know, we've got a goal of 400 in the next 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
So this is just the start for us. We just wanted to test the waters with the 50 guys. Then we'll move to 100 guys, go to the 200 mark, and then we'll we'll turn into a community side. Well, obviously, we've got the Aerox hub. I mean, and that's the other thing as well, which we found very quickly with an esports organisation. A lot of streamers are not interested in esports organisations. They're into like the community feel. So we decided to make the Aerox hub, and that's sort of our separate area of the Aerox esports side of things, and that's what people are enticed to. The Aerox esports bit is just an add-on to our community. It's not really anything to do with Aerox esports. It's the Aerox hub is the main focus. That just allows us to have as many members as we want, as long as it's just organised correctly. There's nothing bad about having. I don't know why people feel it's a big issue. There's nothing bad about having a big stream team. If you're both owners of an organisation, if you've got £400 or £500 coming in every month just from streamers, you're going to expand that as best you can and as quickly as you can, because you want that income coming in. Okay. It's only the people who are not seeing a result from a stream team. Have your 10 members, but you're not getting nothing. So you're not going to expand your stream team if your current 10 members are not doing nothing for you. So my advice, go out there, and just show some interest in people and just try and build a content team. I mean, I know people want to stay exclusive and tight packed. You look at like the top organisations, like I don't know, Red Reserve. They have like 20 streamers, maybe like YouTubers, directors as they're called, but they've got over 100,000 subscribers each, so they don't need to go out and wipe the earth with having a massive content team.
Yeah,
as an amateur organisation, that's what you need to get your name out there.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing as well. People don't see what goes on behind organisations. Players just presume it's just like they'll be given funding and jerseys and stuff like that. But when you actually look at the benefits of it, it genuinely is a lot more beneficial than players see. And it has to make sense for the organisation as well. Like funding-wise, everything you spend has to make sense. So the stream team, like you say, it's really good for an organisation. So. And players don't see that. Those people who are saying it's a bad thing, you shouldn't have 200 members, they do not see the financial benefits of having that stream team. So I think, to be fair, that's where a lot of the criticism comes from.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that testament. Actually, I think what comes behind a lot of that criticism that you get from those youth players, etc., genuinely comes from the ignorance of the fact that they don't necessarily know what goes on behind closed doors. Like, obviously, with all the income that brings you from an organisation standpoint, it's incredibly viable. It's so beneficial. In fact, it's not just like on the surface it looks like, oh, they've just got loads and loads of content creators, how can they possibly manage them all? But when you know that you've got 14 managers, and when you know that you've got this amount of income coming in per month or whatever, that's one of those things that kind of justifies it for you in your head. And it does make it, now you said it out loud, it does seem like a very viable business model. And actually, I had an insight on this a couple of weeks ago, actually a few months ago, I will back it up a bit further, from a content creator who worked with you guys for quite an extended period of time. I think he's ended up leaving recently. Reset, very good friend of mine. And I think he plays a lot of CSGO with some of the Aerox guys still, and he really enjoyed his time there. I don't know why his tenure with you guys ended, but he really enjoyed his time. And I said to him, but how did they manage with so many content creators? He said, well, they genuinely do just have managers. It works out that they have 150 content creators to being 10 content creators per manager with 14. And I said to him, I suppose that's not too bad, as long as each person's self-motivated and they're still doing what they do. And he says, yeah, they keep tabs on us and everything. So I think that approach to the content creation and streaming is absolutely fantastic. It's like I said, unorthodox, but if it nets you as much as you're claiming it nets you, it's more than beneficial. It's more than viable. Another topic that we wanted to move on to, though, because we spent a bit of a while on that one. I quite enjoyed that, though. It's good to get an insight onto these things, I think. And I think this is why we're doing this podcast for you guys on the stream, is because a lot of you guys may not understand what goes on behind closed doors. And all of us being organisation owners as well, and having someone as esteemed and as so far achieved as Davey has got so far, I think is really good for you guys to listen to. I'll just have a quick look to see if there's anything else we can think of. But I wanted to quickly pose the question, Davey. It's a little bit off topic from these organisations, but we have been having a few requests of it. I've had it tweeted at me in the Twitch chat as well, been mentioning it. About, I wanted your opinion on these youth leagues that have come around. Because there's a bit of debate. I was having a debate with Hallie, the Cryptic player, who's now no longer playing for the course of this next stage, as we call it, because of Gizmo going to Bulldog. And he said it's just not worth playing for if I'm not going to be playing for at least top 2, right? And he said there's no point in anyone playing for it. So I wanted your views on it. And obviously you've had teams within these leagues, and you partook in them yourself. There was a team, I think, an Aerox team that played in the Val, but I don't know what happened to that roster. So if you just want to shed some light on A, the roster that you had, and B, if you think it's a viable format for an organisation to keep rolling money into.
The youth.
This doesn't sound positive off the start.
Let's just, if this youth community is what the Call of Duty community have got to look forward to in the next few years, COD will be dead instantly. Okay, so we're all growing up. I'm 26 in 2 months' time. I'm getting older. I plan to be doing this a long time. But you see a lot of people retire from Call of Duty recently. Good players as well. If these youth guys in next year or so, they're coming through, obviously they'll be our next community. They'll be the next generation of COD community. It's going to go bad. So we pulled out of youth. It's a headache. It's a waste of money. You get no publicity. it's just a waste of time. The only team, which is, I hate to say this, but Bulldogs youth team is the only youth team that when they turn 18, they'll probably be a decent team.
Right, and the thing about that as well, actually, is Genesis, I heard, is already 19. He had a crack at the old 18+ thing, and it didn't go particularly well with finding a team, so he came back. I guess now his plan is to wait for the youth players that you're saying. So yeah, they more than likely will turn into a good team, like you say. But anyway,
if you look at, I think they've been coming first for the last few months now, haven't they? Been doing really
few years at this point, mate.
Yeah. So just in that respect, don't bother.
Yeah.
Don't bother.
I mean, I think for some players though, they've already had some success to an extent. I mean, you look at Cammy; he's already up there as a top AM now. Jambo and Shorty. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows. Recently, they've had a hell of a lot of success when they made the leap from the youth leagues to the 18+ scene. I think, to be fair, the youth leagues are kind of necessary. They're necessary to build or to farm players in some way, because at the end of the day, the top players will always get up there, and I think you'd be right in saying that Bulldog will likely get up there as a top team when they eventually leave the youth leagues, if they ever do. Because for them right now, it's just farming money. It's an easy money for them. They invest like 100 quid a season, and they get at least triple that back. I mean, it's easy money for Bulldog at this point. But I think when they leave, that's definitely a team that will 100% perform. I guess not well in the 18+ scene, but I think well enough to actually be noticed. Maybe like a National League level team, for example, or something like that. But yeah, I think the youth leagues are kind of necessary. However bad they are for organisations, which I definitely agree with. I think all three of us having owned teams in the youth leagues and knowing how bad the return is for organisations. And again, that is something that I think needs to be noted by players, is that for organisations there is very, very little that you get in return for the youth leagues. It's a big investment, and when you look at investments like the one we were discussing with TD, what we know about with their investment to their new youth league team, that's an incredible investment for a team that will likely get very little back, even if it is, which it will be something. They are like the third best team.
They're a top three for sure.
Yeah, top three team, which will be
maybe even
back.
Bump to top two if OBN does. If
OBN doesn't get a good fourth. But I think honestly, like, a lot of these teams, there's very little reason for you to put a lot of money in, other than because you know you're going to get a high placing.
Yeah.
I think
go on.
It's just, and also dealing with the youth teams is just so much.
It's such a pain in the ass.
We were arguing over 10%. Like, if I wanted to, I wouldn't take a return. I don't need any return from a youth team. If I thought it was going to be good exposure, I would be in the youth scene still.
Yeah.
If you're a new organisation, I understand that
it's a platform to get started, right?
Yeah, of course. I agree. Like, if you're a new organisation and you don't go to LAN events as such, it's ways that's fine. Be an online organisation, that's fine. But then also we need to take in consideration now that CW has screwed UK over.
It has.
Yeah, 100%.
So the organisations are not travelling. I'm not spending £3,000 to go and place out a top 50. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's important now that we get these leagues going, and the VAL League have done really well.
Oh yeah.
I agree, they've done really well. It's just what comes with it, having a youth team. If the youth community grew up, and actually started DMing people respectfully and not leaking DMs and I'd go back to it tomorrow. But unfortunately, there's so much responsibility. You need to babysit them. They're always want. They're never like, oh, we're going to prove this to you. Like, we'll pay for our first league entry, and if we do well, we'll go from there. It's always like, oh, what are you going to give us? What are we going to get from being in your organisation? I mean, I even had that the other day, trying to compete with us and Team Descend. Like, really? Like, I'm not going to compete with you against another organisation over 10%.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
As soon as and most youth teams do this, they say, oh well, this organisation's offered me that, this and that, blah blah blah. I just don't do it. Like, I don't care how good.
There's no point.
No, what is the point? I don't want to do business with someone like that.
I mean, to be fair, if you were to pick up a team like Bulldog, not that Bulldog will ever let their team go, but if you're ever to pick up a team like Bulldog, where you know it's a guaranteed return, then maybe under those circumstances, but outside of that, it's so pointless.
I think again with that success of Bulldog though, you do get at least a level of maturity from the players. I think you can't have that level of success without maturity.
That's down to I find this as well, right? The teams that do well in these online tournaments, you got your Cryptic, OBN starting to do well now. Team Descent, I don't really want to go into that. Bulldog, but the only reason that their players are doing so well, obviously because they're good at skill and what they do.
Yeah.
But the owners keep them in check, right? If you come out of the top 5 and you look at the organisations, they're ran by under 18 kids that don't care if their players post some stupid shit online.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Oh yeah, that's big.
Them organisations are going to get nowhere, hence why they're in them anyway. But the top 5 people that do have them teams that come top 5, you look at the organisations and you look at their owners, mature guys, some are mature sometimes, mature guys who keep their players in check.
Yeah.
You don't get no drama from them teams. They don't post stupid crap. You know, they're loyal as well. They hardly make roster changes as well. And it comes down to the organisation. But it's like kids picking up kids in the youth area. And these organisations that come in are run by kids. And like you've got owners that play as well. I don't get that. Like,
no, that's one thing I never understood.
No, yeah.
I'm an owner, so why am I playing for my COD team?
No. I never get. That's one thing I've always criticised Voltic, owner of Second Wave, for. Just to call him out on this.
Does he play?
Yeah, he plays. He can't decide if he wants to play or not half the time.
When has he? Has he played? Has he ever got inside the top 16?
No, he doesn't. But the thing is, he's never certain on whether he wants to play or not. And as a result, one thing suffers, whether that be the playing or whether that be the organisation, whichever organisation it might be. That happened with Expire, and it's happening with Second Wave. And I think the thing for me with youth teams is that I don't. For an organisation like Void at the moment, which hasn't got a lot going, it's perfectly okay for me to think that this is going to be okay as a thing to tide me over until I have something for me to go with. For me, only being 17, I get what you're saying about kids picking up kids, and I completely understand that. But for me, I'd like to separate myself from that youth scene as a sense and just go, I understand the logic of business and the maturity that's required. For a sense, like I know I've got plenty to learn. There's a huge age gap in terms of like ownership that's any good, and I don't necessarily intend to make Void my primary career. Casting is what that is for me.
Yeah.
But it's a side project and it's a hobby for me, and it's something that keeps my time free and distracts me from the woes of life. But for me, with youth teams, the thing that I get more than anything, being an organisation which isn't necessarily as prestigious as Aerox or as Bulldog or as Cryptic, is a bunch of plebeian COD players who message me and go, yo, you looking for a youth team? Immediately, I am going to say, no, I'm not looking for one. Or I usually reply with a sarcastic answer like, yeah, that's why I tweeted I'm looking for one. I'm not going to fund a team that does that, though, and I completely agree with your sentiment on that. We'll have one more question from us, and then we'll throw it out to the viewers. So just while you guys are watching the stream, we've got a 30-second delay on as well, so it's just as default on my OBS.
Yeah.
So while we're just going over this next question, throw some questions in the chat for Davey, throw some questions in the chat for myself and Brody as well, if you have any. We'll definitely be doing more of these episodes, so we might focus another couple of these around leagues, but at the moment we're trying to keep around the theme of organisations, so if you throw an organisational question at us...
try and keep it on topic.
Yeah.
Just don't...
And I think we'll finish from our point of view with one of the big stories about orgs at the moment, and we'll throw it over to Nexus and what's gone on there. So we were talking about this before we came on broadcast.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
God.
Well, we'll just talk about the organisational standpoint, not the teams or not who they went to or whatever, not who the team went to. We'll talk about Nexus as an isolated unit, okay? So we'll talk about A, why Ollie felt the need to move on. And we'll talk about B, the fees that they were looking for the organisation, and C, if and why the organisation is going to continue to succeed. So we'll start with A. From what I heard, Ollie had a staff team that wasn't necessarily working, and he was looking to move somewhere where he could gain experience from someone else and where he could make an impact with someone else who was also dedicated to their organisation. What do you? I want to get both your thoughts on that one, because I already know what I think. I think it's a good idea for him, but with the way that Nexus was taking off, I'm more than certain that he could have done that on his own terms. But I want to get you guys' opinion on that itself, on that sort of mentality going towards a new organisation.
Go first. David does not look happy with this one.
See, believe it or not, we don't keep on tabs on other organisations. I see things being retweeted, etc., etc. But when I saw all this, I don't know why you would do it. I don't know why you would get rid of a decent team to go to another organisation.
Yeah.
To then keep an organisation.
Yeah.
And now you haven't got a team. I don't know if they picked a new team up or what, but they
just picked up a new team,
did.
and that's what Brody was murdering his keyboard about earlier.
I got some stick
because he was talking shit about them on Twitter.
It was a bad pickup, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, if what's his name? Who owns it again?
Ollie is the guy who's now moved out of it. It's now some other guy who hasn't heard of.
I think Curti owns it now. He used to work with VEG. Great guy, by the way. Oh, bad.
Yeah, I mean, this is one thing I don't understand as well. If you're an org owner, like I said, you get your own management. If 2 months down the line or a month down the line, you feel like your org's falling apart because of the managers, that's your own fault.
Yeah.
If you've left it that long that your managers are now taking a piss or they're not doing a job properly and you're not doing nothing about it, it's your own fault. You know, you've got your brand. I don't mind the brand. I think it's all right, I suppose. I personally wouldn't have bothered with his organisation. Like, no one knows like you said, behind the scenes what's going on. From an outside point of view, me looking into it, I'd have said, if you failed your organisation, why would you go and join another organisation? What's the point? What's the point of failing as an organisation owner to go and then post that? I think there was a post saying I'm looking to join an organisation.
Yeah, he is. I'm not sure what the intel is on that. I've heard 2 different orgs thrown about that you could be joining.
To take it to that next level. But your organisation was never at a level. So what's the point of saying? I just don't get it. And organisations as well. I don't know why you'd pick up an owner of another organisation who made his own organisation dead. I mean, they were on the youth. They're on the youth thing. That's fair enough. I ain't going to criticise too much about the org itself, but they didn't do much. They've just got a logo and they compete in online tournaments. Like, that's fine, you know. But to say that you're going to kill your own org, sell it for a stupid amount of money, which it's not worth, and then go and join another organisation thinking that you're going to take that org to a next level, it's just beyond me.
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't get it. You're obviously not made to be an owner, so drop down a peg and be a manager. So it's not your responsibility. Nothing, it's not fully on your head. Go and help an organisation. Don't keep trying to run one because you failed to run one. So what's the point of trying to run another one?
Yeah, and that was a thing for me actually when I saw this come out, because Ollie originally used to be a player. He used to compete in these youth leagues. He used to be called Bolt. He played for Zealous. He filled in for a Void lineup at one time. He was a good player, but then he packed it all in to do ownership, try his hand at it, and I think because Nexus had in the past year they've had a reasonable growth in comparison to a lot of other organisations. I don't know if that's like inflated an ego where he thinks he can save other organisations or what have. I think he's more than capable of doing it, but like you say, when you failed, is it necessarily worth going on to another thing like that?
I think it's important to add. I don't personally think Ollie failed. I think Ollie, as a greater guy, and B was. I
definitely agree that he's a good guy.
I think
he's a good
from perspective. Maybe not to jump ship at that point, because honestly, I feel that Nexus could have got better and bigger. And they were actually quite a good org for what they were. And honestly, I do
respected
genuinely
them, which is more than I can say for half the orgs in this community.
Nexus were one of the best orgs in the community. Still are, to be fair. And honestly, I can't see it getting worse under any other ownership because, to be honest, I don't see them doing that. I think Nexus are a great org. And generally speaking, with an org, that org's reputation stays, at least for youth players, across ownership. So even when it changes hands, generally speaking, that changes. Unless it's like really public, where people will find out about that ownership change.
Which is more than likely to happen in the UC.
To be fair, it's happened. But at the end of the day, I feel like, Ollie jumping ship is not necessarily anything bad. I think at the end of the day, if he wants a change, he's going to get one, personally. But I think it's just the actual whole thing itself with Nexus is that ultimately the org itself may not be as good with a different owner. Not to say that is going to be the case, but I'll say that Ollie is a brilliant owner, a brilliant guy as well, and his players reflected that too. When Wazza and that left, they didn't stay on Nexus because they didn't want to be under an org that wasn't owned by Ollie. So clearly he's done something right. But I do see the point that ultimately he left and has moved on to another team that I don't know what org it was, whether it was like a second wave or whatever it was. I don't know what it was in the end. But ultimately, whether it was the right decision, it's his at the end of the day. But from an outsider's perspective, Nexus probably should have stayed on for it.
I agree with that.
If I was him, I would have just. If I don't know, like I said, we don't know what happened behind the scenes.
There's a lot we don't know.
Let's just say he had a problem with managers, right? Get rid of them. That's fine.
Rehire. Take some time out. Rehire.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no need to sell up. I mean, it's not. No offense. No point even selling. It's not worth anything. What's what you said? Well, people have been throwing around figures. Ridiculous, right? Like, what's the point? You might as well just, like I said, take a week off, reanalyze everything. Try and say, right, okay, this is the problem that happened. I'm going to fix it. If he believed in his brand, then he would have tried carrying it on.
Yeah.
But now you're just going into someone else's brand and trying to help someone else's brand. I don't get that. I mean, he might have been fed up of being an owner. I don't know. But now I know he's co-owning now. Like I said, people have been saying that second wave. I don't know. I would have just stuck it up.
Yeah, for me, I think it's impressive what Ollie has managed to do, and I won't take that away from him. I don't. Yeah. The only criticism I can even throw his way about this whole thing is I don't know if it was the right decision, and that's the only criticism I can throw his way, because he went from being a player straight to being an owner, and he did a very good job for having no experience with management. Like you say, you should go from being a manager to being an owner, get that experience, build yourself up. We topped the whole interview off with that, and he just went straight into doing ownership, and he learned it all off the fly, taught himself, and I respect him massively for that. He did a fantastic job of that. All I'm saying is I don't know if it was necessarily the best idea. Because Nexus...
I don't know it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm sure he's a great guy. I know of him. I mean, obviously, organisation owners talk about other. I know of him. So I know he started from nothing, and he's got a brand. It's all right.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know his situation. It's hard to comment on that. But from an outside point of view, he shouldn't have done. I can't say he shouldn't have, because that's his own choice. But I personally would have just got rid of everyone and started again. If he wanted to keep his own brand, if he got fed up with the brand, which obviously that's what it looks like.
Fair enough.
Because he wants to sell. Unless he just wants to make some quick money, and then he wants 200 quid, then he wants to bounce to another org and he's got 200 quid. Yeah. I don't know. No one knows until he says something about it. But I probably would have just fired everyone, started again, and got some really cool people on board.
Yeah. There's a lot of speculation about who he's joining still. But anyway, we'll take some questions from the chat for the time being. If you guys still have any questions that you haven't thrown in, please make sure to do so.
Dean made a good question in the chat a while ago. I think he asked, one second, let me just get it, just word for word. He said, what are our opinions on making the transition from the youth scene to the 18 plus mid-year with no pro points? I think he's just asking, how possible it is, and whether or not it's one of those criticisms of the CWL this season. And like Dave said, absolutely fucking the scene as a whole in the UK.
Yeah, the CWL did shaft us on that.
I think all of this, the rest of this year, it's going to come down to just having a team with good gun skill. Pro points, this massive thing. So everyone's focused on pro points, right? Okay, it helps you with seeding, so you don't get railed.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, if you've got a good enough team, you're going to have to face these teams down the line. If you're going to go to a LAN event with no pro points, you're obviously going to come up against some decent teams straight off the bat. But if you've got a really good squad, and they've been dominating people online, you've got a good chance. It just comes down to the team. The pro points are there to obviously get your seed in, and the top people will eliminate the rubbish people pretty quickly, and it moves things along. But I personally would say to someone, it don't really matter about pro points anymore. You're not traveling to America. Just get a team together, make sure it's a good team, and just go for it. We've only got 2 events this year.
the
Who
UK.
cares? No, this is why the online thing is now taken off more now than last year, because we all rely on it. Even so much like some organisations rely on the online tournaments.
Right.
If that's what you focus on, if you focus on the Call of Duty, you're obviously going to focus on these online tournaments because you're not going to be sending teams to America. It's even to go to an event in the UK, it's expensive enough for a new org. You're looking at a lot of money still.
It's a couple of £100 at least, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're a new org, then you're going to struggle as well. So just find a decent team and just hope for the best. You might have a hidden gem of a team. Don't worry about pro points. Who cares? A lot of over 18s do care, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The system's crap. I could talk hours on the system. But there's no.
Yeah, I think
maybe that'll be another episode.
Everyone's had these discussions before about how rubbish the system is, but ultimately, if you want structure, it is what it is. You kind of just have to deal with it. But I mean, unless you're going to go for franchising, which is a whole different discussion. There's nothing much you can do about it. And again, whole different discussion with franchising. But ultimately, you want a big scene, which COD isn't anyway. COD is turning into Halo now.
We're getting down that wormhole very quickly.
Yeah, we're going down that road. Anyway, I think that should be about it, unless you guys have any other further comments on that question.
I've got just a quick thing. I'd have thought it would be my advice. My take on that one's a bit different to the no pro points thing. I think with the no pro points and the lack of anyone knowing about you in the 18+ thing, it's difficult to definitely do that on halfway through a year. Not going to say it's impossible. I'm not going to go as far to say it's impossible to do, but I'm going to say it's incredibly difficult and almost not worth doing until next year. Like you definitely get a much, much, much better shot at it next time around than coming in halfway through the year. You basically have to get onto a team pretty quickly who's already making some moves, like who's already getting in like somewhere to get you at least a little bit noticed there. Yeah. But anyway, one more question I've just seen from Jip. He's talking. This is from Jip is a designer. If you guys didn't know, I think. I'm not. He's not. I'm thinking of Herb. I'm thinking of Herb. I don't know why I'm thinking of Herb. Right, Jip.
He's going to be insulted with that.
Right, Herb's the designer. It's the 4-letter name. That's what got me there. Herb and Jip, not Herb. Jip wants to know the best branding for current organisations. We'll go with overall, and then we'll go within our scene. For best branding? For me, best branding at the moment in terms of like apparel and everything else that they've got going. It's a start-up at the moment, but 100 Thieves are just fire. Like you can't tell me that like their apparel and stuff they got going is not nice.
Yeah, I mean to be fair, they've probably got a team of people talking about the branding behind them. They have so much funding now. I think I don't know what sport it is, but I think it's
they've got 2 like mortgage companies and whatever.
Yeah.
Like.
They've got some hella money behind the scenes. So I think they've actually got a team probably working on the branding constantly. What I would say is that in terms of organisations with their branding, a lot of it is just straight up. You have to work on a branding working with a designer of your branding is probably the best idea. Don't just come up with the first design you get. Ultimately, know what you want, and then have discussions that could take weeks, months to get a proper branding before you just go out and do it. And ultimately, to be fair, I think some orgs go for like multiple revisions of branding before finally deciding on one that they like, and actually they'll still be in the process of growing during that period. I don't know how many, if any of our orgs here have ever done that, had different brands beforehand.
I spent
different logos.
I've been through different logos, but the main thing for me was when I decided to change the colour scheme from red to just like a G2 esports kind of feel, with just like really kind of basic colours. Right. I thought to myself, I hit up Connor Farron, one of my good friends and a cracking designer as well, who's just done the announcement graphic I put out today for the youth team. Absolutely fantastic. And he came to me and he said, I said to him, Connor, I want you to throw together a bunch of different graphics, a bunch of different styles that we can potentially work on, and just sample them for me, and then we'll generally run that theme over into a bigger package. So that's something that I've done, and I think it's incredibly viable and worth doing. I'm really happy with the way Void's turned out in terms of branding. I definitely want to improve that this year though, because I'm kind of tired of the old stuff now.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be a quick topic in terms of branding.
I want to throw that one over to Davey real quick.
Yeah, Dave, I want to hear Dave's opinions on the branding, because obviously Aerox's brand, obviously I've heard positive things about it.
Oh, I've heard fucking fire things about that store, dude. The Ram Ascension store is fire.
So I just want to know your opinions on it before. I think this is going to be our last question anyway. So your opinions on it before, because obviously you've got the best brand out of ours.
I think it's just what you're interested in. You know, when I took Aerox, I just liked the brand. The name didn't mean anything as well. I don't like names that mean other things.
Right.
The colour scheme was alright. I liked that. I just fell in love with the brand, and then we just put all your heads together and think of something to do. Like I said, our store is pretty cool. That's all being updated very soon as well.
It's so fire, honestly. I would 100% buy something from that if I had the money.
Yeah. Just do you. Each owner's different.
Yeah.
One has their own views and how people want to see things. So it's down to each individual person. I got to quickly dash, boys. So I'll answer these questions.
Yeah, well, we're going to fire this. We're going to end the stream off here anyway. So yeah, we'll close it out here then, boys. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure to follow Esports Universe on Twitter as always. These guys are doing a fantastic job of coming up straight at the moment and straight into the community, giving the youth scene and 18+ scene everything that they need. Remember, we've got the £100 tourney on tomorrow. I'm not going out now, so I will be casting that with Brody. We're gonna have a cracking time, and thank you again to Davey. If everyone in the chat, just send Davey some love. His Twitter is on the screen. You can see it underneath. And make sure to follow Aerox Esports as well. Cracking organisation. We've been talking about them all night. So thank you guys as always very much for watching. We'll be back probably next week, maybe a week after, with a few different guests.